Hello, I'm Angela Princewill.
Hello, Sherine Abdi.
I'm Rabab Buhari.
Today we're going to be talking about a topic that seems to be taking over all social media, and it's about Hiba Abouk and PSG star player Achraf Hakimi. If I pronounce the names wrong, please forgive me. I do not know these people personally, and everything we're going to be discussing here is just the same information that you have, okay? What's just out on TikTok and any other social media of choice. And really, I think we felt this was a mission for us because there's a lot of I can't call it misinformation. There's a lot of talk and respect and a lot going on around this subject,
Yeah.
almost none of which would apply in Ontario. So before people go out there and set themselves up for failure, and then we have to clean up this mess so many years later, we figured we're going to take it upon ourselves to set the record straight. So that's what we're going to do now. So, Rabab, let's have you go. What's this about? Like, just at least give us an idea of kind of what really is going on, facts wise.
Okay, so basically, Achraf Hakimi is a soccer player. He plays for PSG, I believe, and he got married to Hiba Abouk, who is an actress. I believe they were married in 2020, so their marriage is like a pretty short one. They have two children together. There's like certain allegations that came up recently with regard to sexual assault, like on his part. And now the marriage is ending, I'm guessing for that reason or for like other reasons, I'm not sure. But anyway, now they're getting divorced, and his wife was seeking to get 50% of his property, but he apparently had put some of the property in his mother's name. And also his paycheck from PSG, I think he earns like $1 million every month. I'm not fully sure about the numbers, but he earns about $1 million a month, and apparently about like 80% of that gets paid directly into his mother's account. So now, because those assets and that money as well is in his mother's name, she has no access to it. So that's just basically like a synopsis of the situation.
Yes, and that's enough to get our bloods boiling, the outrage. But I can't help myself but to plug in right here that if they had a marriage contract, we would not be talking about this.
We would
So
not.
first off, if you don't have one, and if you're in Ontario, and you might hear people say prenup, it's not, you can do it while you're married. You can do it 20 years into marriage, okay? So if there's the first and most important lesson you're going to take away from this is get a marriage contract, because if they did, then it would solve half this problem. But Shireen, do you want, I mean, a few issues just jump right out to me when I'm hearing these facts. Where do you want to start?
I mean, I'm actually going to just touch on the marriage contract piece because I think the biggest, I think controversy surrounding this is that she had no idea that these assets were in his mom's name majorly, right? If they had done a marriage contract, a big element of that is financial disclosure. So she would have been very aware at that time because financial disclosure from our perspective is actually, a big piece of kind of getting a marriage contract in place. So yes, that kind of would have
No,
solved
so
half
you
the
know
problem.
where it gets me on the marriage contract bit is I'm more humiliated for her that she had to find out in the public eye that he had
Yeah,
nothing. So even
Exactly.
if they decided to waive financial disclosure, and as part of which you would strongly discourage, but
mhm.
let's say he revealed all of his assets, they could have still said each person would own their respective assets. So when she's leaving him at this point, at least the equalization bit would not be an issue. Because remember, what I'm also hearing on some parts of the internet is that she now has to make an equalization
I
payment.
heard that too, yes.
That doesn't seem like the outcome she was going for at all. So, I mean, the only way I could feel better seeing how I'm so involved in this is if is if she actually if he walks away from it and it's like lesson learned. I almost feel like you've incurred legal fees, you've done all of this not to get anything. At the very least, she would have not had an equalization straight up. And then support issues which we would talk about. They could have also agreed if we break up, no spousal support. But I didn't even see it from your angle, Sherine, and I agree with you for a fact, because if she was intending to be a gold digger, then she should have also known from the outset, because that's what some people are calling her on the internet, in spite of the allegations against him. But I make no comment there. But you know what I mean? Like how she didn't even know that he had nothing in his name. So the disclosure would have been helpful, and she wouldn't have started a claim for equalization in the first
Yeah.
place. So that's a good angle to look at it for sure.
Yeah, so other than the marriage contract piece, now that, they've also obviously did not go that route, and here they are finding out all of this information. From an Ontario perspective, I mean, I think the simple nature of just putting assets into, someone else's name is not doesn't sheer it doesn't protect you from, sharing in the division of that property. In Ontario, we have claims respecting, trust claims against property, or figuring out who in fact is the beneficial owner of those properties.
Yeah.
If in fact, I mean, if we were taking this scenario and applying it to, Ontario jurisdiction, which is really the topic that we have today, um, you know, specifically the income, looking at that's income that would be included for support. Diverting your resources from income perspective is not going to be how we're just going to just say, okay, yes, 80% of your income goes to your mom, therefore, you know, we should only use the 20% of your income that's available for support resources. That's not going to be the situation that we're going to be looking at, especially when income's diverted. So that would be like the reality is the full income would be included from our perspective. And then on the property piece, all of the properties registered under, his mom's name, we're going to have to look at who's in fact the beneficial owner. Was it intended as a gift? Who paid for the down payment, who purchased the property, who maintained the upkeep of these properties. So if he's in fact the beneficial owner of the property, even though mom is the registered owner, it calls into question, okay, is this property really just, his, and it should be shared
Yeah.
as part of the equalization process? Yes, there's the issue of a short marriage, which I don't know if I'm getting it too much into that, and I'll leave that kind of for you, Angela.
Dig deeper into all of these things because you're kind of summarizing. So we're going to need to I intend for us to take each issue and really kill it, because I don't think you're saying it strongly enough. You will not succeed. Don't go putting your home in your mom's name and think, you figured out the secret way to get, it will fail.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens all the time, actually. I have clients that, will put their mom on their business, or they'll keep their assets like sheltered, and they're like, oh, it's not in my name. Good luck. I'm like, no, actually, it's not how it works. We could get the disclosure. We could determine that it's in fact yours.
Yeah.
And therefore it is yours for the purposes of division. So I'm with you. Like it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to do so, especially here in Ontario.
Now, yes, and even intentionally deplete. I'm just trying to think, like, you're making how many millions a year? um, you put these assets in your mom's name. If the math doesn't even math, like I'm going to be going after an intentional depletion of your property, because where is that? Where are those funds going? But I think I'm gonna put it running by you, Rabab. What are your thoughts when you think about this from a support perspective?
I mean, like, so depending on, because again, it is a short marriage, but like child support is going to be like a huge factor depending on, like, where the children live with, who the children live with. But yes, he puts 80% of that money in his mom's name, but that doesn't really matter because it's his name on the paycheck. So if he's earning $1 million per month, that's like roughly what, $12 million per year. So like we would need to do like support calculations on, like, and there's 2 children of the marriage, support calculations. Section 7 expenses as well is something that needs to be taken into consideration. So yeah, I don't know. I think, yeah.
Oh, when you mentioned Section 7, I just thought of something interesting, because I understand the children are about 3 and 1 year old, and I'm thinking, well, they're not going to, a government funded daycare. If they're going to, I'm thinking they're having like fancy nannies. I'm like, how far can we take these Section 7 expenses,
Yeah, and
Two
he's a
nannies?
professional soccer player. He's probably going to
Exactly.
want them to play soccer as well. So there's going to be training, there's going to be coaches, things like that.
They're definitely not going to my son's like soccer league, that's for sure. So, I'm pretty sure we're not looking at the same expenses, but absolutely. So now when we think of it from spousal support, I think that's probably where he might get the best protection, and not because he was putting the money in his mom's name, just because I don't see entitlement. Actually, I could be wrong there.
I see
Because of,
entitlement given
depending
the
on where the
children.
children, depending on how parenting plays out, there may or may not be entitlement to spousal support. Because if the children live with her, then obviously she's disproportionately affected by the breakdown of the relationship, because now she would have majority of the child care responsibilities after separation. If the children are, say, split equally between them, I don't really see an entitlement. I mean, what do you guys
I mean,
think?
it could
He's
be,
also
honestly. She is an
2 years.
actress and a model, so she was pregnant for a couple of years, obviously hindering her ability to work. So I think there is a small compensatory element of support there.
but
I mean, obviously it is a short
Hmm.
marriage, but given the nature of her employment, she did have to, subdue her career a little bit. I can imagine, given, her being an actress and a model, I don't know how much work is available for pregnant individuals. And I can imagine he probably said, hey, don't work, let me support you. And, obviously furthering, the compensatory element, her not being in the workforce
Hmm.
for a couple years. I don't think it's the best claim, but I think there is an element there.
he's
Rabab, you're
also
going to say something. What
potentially
are you thinking?
I was gonna say he's also potentially going to jail. Like so that's something that like we also need to take into
That
consideration.
one is, oh, that's a good one. That could
And
test
like
his ability to pay.
because like yeah, because he's potentially going to jail. The children are going to have to be with her. There's no shared or anything. So that's also something that needs to be considered.
Yeah, true. But no, but now you've made it harder now, because she has a bigger problem to concern herself with, not just the 80% that's going to the mom. It's like, what if 100% of this income is gone?
It's just done, yeah.
So now I can just see us. All I'm thinking now is, do we impute income to him? Because, well, you brought this, okay. Without sounding insensitive, we're not talking criminal law here. From a family law perspective, if through actions of your own you you find yourself in jail, you will be considered intentionally underemployed. And even though it might be unfair under the circumstances, it is what it is. So do they impute $1 million income to him while he's still in jail? Like, this could get messy, you're right.
Yeah, and I don't know the value of his properties because, their I don't know if they're income generating assets, right? Like as
Hmm,
income for support, if he has
that's
valuable
true.
real estate, I imagine, he invested a portfolio of a couple $1 million of hopeful real estate or something that, generates income, even though, on top of, his salary. So that might be an issue as
Oh,
well.
that's a good one. Before, where do you put her self-sufficiency in this mix? Because I hear you, she's pregnant. If we were opposing lawyers on this case, your position is, well, in spite of a short marriage, she should
I'm
get,
getting her spousal support.
yeah, and I'm saying no, there's no pattern of dependency here. You've only been with this man 2 years, and your strongest argument is, well, giving her career. Within those 2 years, she's had to subordinate like her career goals and all that. And I can even add there that I'm sure age might be a factor as well. I can imagine 2 years in the modeling world might be 20 years for the rest of us. But be that as it may, she's now had these children. Doesn't she have an obligation to get back in shape and get back to work?
She does, but I think the
I'm not
expectation
about to
needs to be
get back in shape.
right? It needs to be reasonable. Like, I don't know if she gave up, you know, a series that, would have lasted 5, 10 years. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know what sacrifices she's made personally through her career. So again, like we could stretch this, right? Say, she's getting, support until these children are 18. Like, I don't know, right? At the end of the day, given the facts that I do have to believe there's some element of support. And yeah, I do think she's obligated to be self-sufficient, but I think given the nature of her career, I don't know what kind of sacrifices she had to make. Is it reasonable to expect that within the next 2 to 3 years, obviously she has young children, and what if she's been the primary caregiver? What if she doesn't want to pass on that role to, nannies and, private daycare?
Yeah.
So, there's different elements that need to be looked at. If she's been primarily these children's caretaker, there's been nobody else involved, or not to the extent required, it's unreasonable to expect that she just, pick up and go head to work, especially if I don't know physically, like, what she looks like.
She looks
And
fantastic. She's gorgeous.
I mean, I've
There
seen
you go. So
pictures.
there could be a modeling job waiting for
She's
her would be my
gorgeous.
Yeah, and we
answer.
could
There's a
hope it.
modeling
We
job
also
with
have
your name
to,
on it.
exactly. And then, given where they are so publicly, like, how easy is it for her to get a job, given kind of the backlash and, the controversy surrounding the circumstances? These are not
Yeah.
private
So
individuals.
would we be able to agree that no matter what the spousal support is, like it ought to be very limited, actually, maybe preferably a lump sum, given the length of this marriage? Minimal amount. You're not possibly arguing that she gets more than the low
You know
range,
why?
are
It's because I'm
you?
really stuck on my situation that she gave up like a series that, it's going to be earning, you know what though? But yes, it is limited in nature. But through my own, like, big belief scenario, I think that, she gave
I
up
can
like
think of another celebrity that comes to mind that could potentially have given up a series, but I don't think it's her. But I'm just thinking, well, then get another series. What's your agent doing? Because then now we're going to start. If I'm the husband's lawyer, then now I want all of the documentation. Do you have a new agent? Who's your manager? How many, auditions are you going for? Things like that, right? I remember she also has modeling to the side, so it's not just acting. So anyway, but go ahead, Rabab.
Yeah, no, because I was gonna say the modeling one, I don't know, because like modeling is very, very ageist and she's 36. So like that might be a problem. The acting, I think she's more likely to like get something from that, but like the modeling, I'm not so sure.
But at 36, she was married at 34. So I'm going to say it's as a result, it's not whatever she's going through, it's not a consequence of the marriage. It's just a consequence of life.
Age.
But you know what?
Yeah.
Ultimately, so guys, what you could see, three lawyers and three ways this could stretch
but I
out.
have one more item to throw in there. Now, we've talked about support, but what about on a needs basis? And let's say emotionally, this has impacted her significantly to the point where she can't get a job, and, from a medical perspective, now has a needs-based entitlement to support. Could this be something beyond limited? I think so, if that's
I think so. Honestly, even from a needs based, depending on where parenting falls. And if he's a soccer player now, I know they do a little bit of traveling and things like that, or I don't know how. So I'm thinking it may not, if she's actually already subordinated her career, it may make sense that parenting should fall with her. So if she gets pregnant, I can see a needs based support claim, at least up until maybe the children are at least 18 or something, especially given the who their dad is, right? It just really would not, if this is in Ontario, they're not about to let this child live a regular, middle class life when he has such a wealthy father. Like they would find a way to ensure that. And I don't think that child support alone would work out in this case. So it's either he gives her something willingly or I think it would be ordered on some note. And yes, and Shireen, you're talking about from the medical perspective, that could get really complex. You're right, because she is getting a lot of hate on the internet. So would she want to put herself out there in a career that's so public? It's not like she's working behind a computer. Well, that might not even be good, but but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, you're right. It might affect her mentally as well. And wow. So at times
it
like
never
this,
ends.
we'll go back to step one. You could have done a marriage contract where you could have talked about how spousal support could be dealt with, right? And child support, as anyone that's paying attention would have noticed, none of us are even going there. It's unanimous. Like you're going to pay child support, you're going to pay it on your full income. In fact, I was even looking at just the PSG income. Now, Shireen has raised the issue that there might be these assets when we claw them back from mom, might be income generating. Now we're going to add that income to him. And in fact, if I know Shireen, she's going to gross up that income because it's collected by mom, who probably is in a lower tax bracket.
Yeah.
So we're going to gross it up, and child support is going to be paid to the maximum amount.
Sponsorship
So
deals too. Like, is he like represented by Nike, Adidas, like all these people? Like, yeah.
that is, yep. Wow. So guys, you see how things can start looking very simple but complex. So if you're in Ontario, don't think that you can pass on your income to someone and you will be protected. It will not work. The disclosure, we will get the disclosure, she will get the support. Now, if the money is hidden in a place where no one knows. I think the issue with this is it's so obvious, and that's why I'm more concerned about people thinking it's a strategy. If the income is hidden, if no one knew that he had any endorsement, if his endorsement was, I don't even know what kind of endorsement it would be, because the point of endorsement is for people to know, for you
Know
to
your
promote
face.
it. But
Yeah.
let's say no one knew and it was just like his contracts were secret. So if you're not in a high profile position like him and your pay is secret, it's between you and your company. If there's non-disclosure agreements between you and the corporations you're dealing with, then we can't claw back what we don't know.
Mhm.
So I don't want it to seem like people haven't gotten away with lies in Ontario, but they lie. In his own case, it's not so much a lie. It's more of a diversion of assets, and that's why we're saying that's not a strategy that would work here. Neither would lying. But I mean, like, I don't know what to say. I have to put that one out there. So just be honest. Okay, well, I want to drill down a little bit more on this on the property issues. So Sherine, I know you and I have done a lot of trust claims together. Right off the top, I'm simply seeing a resulting trust right here. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't even bother, like, there's no point even going any further. My guess is he just gave this to mom, and you know I don't know, and trust claims are equitable claims, and I know equity does not presume a gift. So I'm just trying to think of in terms of who bears the burden of proving it, right? Is it her, or
It's the
is it
person
him?
relying on it, right? So if it's him saying it's a gift, it would be him. Honestly, I don't really see how you could, even if you gifted it, like from our perspective, you're reckless. This goes back to the reckless depletion of property, or obviously, I mean, that's the easiest way to explain it. But yeah, in
Yeah.
terms of the gift, I could see a resulting trust claim, especially because the mom does not work. So, or at least to my knowledge, she's not working.
I
So
don't think she
how
does.
could she have acquired or amassed such, income or properties? It's very clear it's coming from one
No,
source.
no, I think there's no denying that he gave her the asset. So in this case, it's even clear you gave them to her.
Yeah,
So
he's
aren't
bragging
you just
about it, or at least like that's like that's what I
the
get from
internet
like
is
what people are
hyping you
saying.
about it? So
Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily matter from the context that, all of these properties were in mom's name before they were even married. I think that's been an ongoing discussion as well. It was already like that before they got married. And I'm like, it really
mhm.
doesn't matter because the same issue arises,
Yeah.
which is
You're a
no
beneficial owner, and
Mhm.
yeah, under our Family Law Act, any property that you have a beneficial interest in is property to be equalized. But then I think what we could do in Ontario is, now that this is where the short marriage might be helpful for us, because then if these properties, so it doesn't matter that it was there, we put whatever the value was, he will get the way equalization is calculated, he will get the deduction for the value on the date of marriage. So really, all she's really looking at getting here is the increase in the value of his property over the 2 year marriage. I think it's like 2, 3 years. I'm not
three
sure.
years,
I think 2 years. Yeah.
almost
Like
3 years.
almost 3 years.
I think, to
Yeah.
be honest, yeah, the value, but then also any properties that he's purchased throughout the marriage, she would have to
Yes,
share all of
she
that.
would
So
share that. But
yeah.
then, of course, we're going to say, if this were our client, if he were our client, we would say you're not getting 50% of that over a 3 year marriage. Isn't that what we would say?
I mean, yes, I would, but in these circumstances, these are not like, if they didn't want it, it's not shocking to me someone who's making $1 million would have to pay someone, for 12
Rabab,
million.
are you
Not
shocked?
shocking.
Um.
Especially because that's with the deductions in place, like it's not shocking to me in the circumstance,
Yeah.
given the nature of these parties. In a normal circumstance, absolutely.
I want to hear what Rabab thinks. Like, is this shocking to your conscience that she would get 50% of the increased value over a short marriage.
No, it was just me listening intently. I'm like, yeah.
So it's not shocking. Okay, this is so
No, but the interesting
it's
part
an
actually
important question because everyone
is
like listening or watching would wonder like why am I so concerned about the shocking to the conscience? And I wanted to be clear that that's the test. So I know I just jumped out there and I said, no way, we're not giving 50% because it's a short marriage. But that's not the rule. For me to succeed in not the rule is 50%. For me to have a court deviate from 50%, I have to show that it's unconscionable. And unconscionable essentially means shocking to the conscience. And you can see how subjective that is. I have two people here whose consciences aren't shocked by it. So
I mean, is your conscience shocked by this scenario? I mean, obviously we're all lawyers here, so maybe we're asking the wrong people. I mean, is it a
yeah.
scenario where you can see, a court agreeing that it is in fact shocking, or because again, he's getting the date of marriage deduction, and while it is a short marriage, they did start dating in 2018. I don't know if they started cohabitating during that period. So
Mhm.
the way that the court would
Yeah.
look at it is it's not just the marriage. If you started living together in
In that
2018,
period
you're
as
going to
well.
claw in that entire period of time. And if it's, 5
If it's
years,
2018, then it's game over. It's not, we're not likely to make any unconscionability. It's not likely to be successful then. Yeah. I feel like I'm just going to have to maintain my position that is shocking to me that after 2.5
just want to
years,
be different. That's fine.
I, no, I have a case to tell you how subjective this can be. I had a case where my client was thought it was unconscionable that they divide their assets equally because she paid $4,000 to fix the pool. It meant the world to my client. And when we went in front
I
of
thought
the
you
judge,
say that
you
because
remember
she's
the
a
matter, I
nurse.
could see you're smiling, and the judge, I mean, I tried, of course, we would always level with you. Like, I would always be honest. So you're not getting in front of that judge without me giving you an idea, kind of like how Sherine's telling you that they might not be that shocked. But she could not believe that the judge was not shocked. The judge was like, I don't think it's unconscionable. She's like, but it's 4,000. And 4,000 was a lot of money for my client. Like she wasn't being dramatic. She was retired. He wasn't paying her support for a while. To her, it was just shocking. She just thought she should get more. And I mean, we dealt with that in this scenario by giving her back her $4,000 and kind of balancing things out that way. But her position was, I increased the value of this house by repairing the pool, and so we got about $100,000. I don't know, a significant amount of money more than they would have gotten with the pool the way it looked previously. So that was kind of her position with the unconscionability, but no one was shocked. So again, as with these things, roll
I
of the
would be
dice
shocked
depends on
if
what
someone
judge
was
we
shocked.
get.
Yeah, I would
Sorry?
be shocked. I would be shocked if someone was shocked in that scenario. So, um, but, but yeah, this is a very interesting case that hits on really all of the points. Honestly, every area of family law that you could really touch on is a concern in this
I know
file.
we try to stay away from parenting, right? Because we don't even
We
want
haven't
to
even
go there.
touched
Like
parenting.
we don't know if she was the primary caregiver. We don't know if we just don't know, right? If she the great best mom, and if we were in Ontario, it's not, some people have this misconception that the children would always remain with the mother. That's not Ontario law. The law here is what is in the best interest of the children. And what if it turns out that the children are better served living with him primarily? It's not impossible.
I know 1-year-old with such a rigorous schedule. I'm not sure. But
If
again,
she's a model, Sherine, if she's a model, then they're both with rigorous schedules. He's in
I
a
think
French league. Go ahead.
I think his would be much more like
I feel
rigorous
like
because
maybe
he
she could do her career a little bit, but I'm not sure.
because he plays
But
like
Rabab,
club
you're a soccer
soccer.
fan, so how far do they like? He's in the French league. Like, is
Yeah,
he?
but
Trains,
I think he also
trains.
plays for Morocco, like the national team as well. So he's gonna have like national games that like where he has to play for the country, and then he also has to play like for PSG. So like I mean they have like they're like French league. I think it's called like League One or something. I don't
Yes,
know if they're
Leon.
I don't know if they're in the Champions League or not. I'm not sure. He would have to like
Yeah,
play.
they are in the Champions League, yeah.
So like it's a lot of traveling all around Europe, sometimes around the world. Like whenever like the World Cup comes, or like, you know, like things like, or like the African Cup of Nations. I think he's Moroccan, I'm not sure. But like
Yes.
if that comes, like, yeah, so he'd need to like travel like to another continent to like play for like weeks on end. You know, so like, and her, like maybe she has a photo shoot at like 9 p.m. one night. So like
In New York.
uh, yeah, but I mean, I don't know, because I don't think she's been like as active as like, because I mean, her net worth is what, like 2 to 3 million. So like, I don't know that she was like super, super active to like make a, because I feel like it would be higher if she was like more active. But I think, yeah, I think it would be with her, because like with him, his schedule is like just a little crazy. Because, and I'm just talking about games. We haven't even gotten into training and things like that. Also, his
I'm
endorsement.
thinking training. So the way I'm seeing it is training and games are happening most of the time within Paris. And then maybe once a week or so, he's traveling. So Paris is based, and we don't know what family supports he has to take care of him. We don't know if they've had a nanny
We know
since
he
the
has
kids
his
were
mom.
born. Sorry?
So we know he has his mom. I don't know if they're on speaking terms. I mean, at least, you know.
With all that money on her in her name,
It
they
better
better.
be.
No, not him and her son.
Oh, you meant the
Oh,
mom, the
mom and
wife and the
daughter-in-law.
mom. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I'm thinking that great like television series that she gave up in Shirine's like scenario, imagined scenario.
It's
Um,
big.
you know, that's also can be tasking, right? Like people go shoot on locations and things like
Yeah,
that. So
that is
this could
true.
this could also get
But
interesting, because if he's saying you're self-sufficient, go work, then
yeah,
that means that would affect her role as primary caregiver to the children if she ever was.
yeah. But he's also potentially going to jail. That's also like
Uh-huh.
something else. Like
Yeah, you
that's
keep bringing us back there.
what happened. It's a very real possibility. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
that's
Um, Sherine, I don't want to put you on the spot there, so I'm going to stop, because I think I know you do have some experience dealing with a situation where a parent might be going to jail, and sort of how parenting would work there. But I'm going to stop it here for now, and just want to remind people, you know, if you have assets you want to protect, or even if you think you might acquire assets, because that's a lot of mistakes people make. They get married and they feel they have nothing at that point, and so there's no a marriage contract is pointless, which is fine if your philosophy is everything I build with my wife, I'm content for us to share it if we're breaking up. Unfortunately, when people break up, they're really not that reasonable at that point. Now it's like, I did it all myself. She was never helpful. 20 years, she contributed nothing to this relationship. That's what most people think. So why not just do a marriage contract, and then we can this problem solved. You don't have to worry about this anymore. You get the full disclosure, so ahead of time what assets are actually in his name and what's not. And even you could go a step further, even if it's in his mom's name, your lawyers at that time can make it clear that he has a beneficial interest in this asset, so that we can either secure your rights to share in them, or you can make a conscious decision knowing that you're getting nothing out of it. And that way we can avoid this entire scenario. So please, it is not a strategy to divert assets or income to others. In Ontario, your strategy will fail. So you've been warned, and until next time, it's bye for now, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
right.